am traveling this week, but I did get the blocks done from last week, and I also got the blocks that we're going to be doing this week done, 17, 18, 19, and 20. This week's post is more of a vlog, I guess you could say, although I did take lots of pictures when I was putting my blocks together. Right now I'm out in the mountains of Idaho, and the roads are pretty good. It's a pretty good sky, pretty blue sky, gorgeous snow, river that's really frozen over. But I'm going to be going through a canyon here in a minute that is absolutely stunning. But I wanted to just kind of encourage you. These blocks are very addictive, and I want to encourage you to keep going. I'm starting to see a little pile of 4x5 quilt blocks that are very traditional in their structure and in their technique, the way you put them together, the way they look. I am a very traditional quilter. I am not a modern quilter. Obviously, you can tell from the quilts and things that I've had in my studio, and the colors that I use are more muted and more almost like a darker tone to them. Oh, it's just beautiful. I'm just stunned here. But they're very traditional in the fact that they go together with rotary cutter or applique. My colors are more muted. I'm just a very traditional quilter. I like the old styles. I have a lot of friends that tell me I was born 200 years too late. This week though, I wanted to tell you I baked some artisan bread in a cast iron Dutch oven, and it came out pretty good. I do need to check my different cooking vessels though to cook it in. It came out a little more brown on the bottom than I wanted, only because I had to take it out of the oven to check it, and it was browned on the bottom, a little more brown than I wanted. So I have maybe you would call it a Dutch oven from the 1950s that was my great-grandmother's, that's lighter inside. It's just that it's not cast iron. I would say it's probably a heavy type aluminum that I'm going to try baking my bread in. Also, while I am traveling and going to be at a couple of different various destinations, I am going to try and catch me some wild yeast. I will be in one destination that I will be at. I will be in the middle of orchards, a lot of commercial fruit orchards, cherries and blueberries and apples and pears, a lot of apple orchards, and I'm going to try to start some sourdough starter with some wild yeast from the orchards. So hopefully I can get that accomplished while I am gone here. But I will be continuing my sewing. I do have my sewing machine in the back of my small little SUV here. I take it with me wherever I go. I also have been studying up on, I believe you pronounce it einkorn flour, that I'm going to buy some when I am at a co-op, near a co-op here on my travels. And I'm going to try a starter with both whole wheat sourdough starter and try to start some starter with this I believe it's Ian corn or iron corn flour. It's a very ancient grain that is a lot more digestible to some, and not so glutinous, maybe is the term I want. I'm trying to get in my diatomaceous earth. I am going to be passing Mount Bora here in Idaho in about, I don't know, 20-25 minutes. Mount Bora is our highest point, and it's 12,669 feet high. And the summer of 2016, I did hike that. I made it almost to the top. I was pushing about 11,900, and altitude sickness set in that I was not prepared for. So I had to turn around. The last thing I would like to talk to you about is, as you're making your quilt blocks, I'm sure most of you have already flipped through the rest of your book to look at some of the settings that are in the back part. The pictures are stunning. This really is a beautiful book. Carol and Linda did a beautiful, beautiful job. I am still endeavoring and attempting and have the goal of doing all 182 blocks. But you might be doing one a week. That's fine. You might be doing half of that many. Whatever. You need to start thinking about your setting, how you want to set your blocks in your quilt. Some people like square quilts. Some people like more rectangular quilts. It's up to you as to how you want to set those blocks. I will only be taking you through the block process, and then you can determine yourself how you would like your blocks to be set. About the only thing that's probably a given is these blocks can't be set on point because they are rectangles. They're not squares, so you won't be able to set these blocks on point. There is so much inspiration out here as I'm driving. The mountains are snow-covered and beautiful, but the trees, the tree line on the mountains are such a contrast to the white snow. And I think that's why I like quilting so much. The type of quilting that I do is the piecing, I guess I should say. I like high contrast quilts. I like two color quilts. They're probably my favorite. Red and white or blue and white. But there are times where I like to mute more colors together. I'm just a very traditional quilter. Those types of quilts withstand the test of time. They speak volumes about the quilt makers who made them. Most of them pieced by hand, but they were more, quilts were going up in altitude and all my bottles of water are popping. Quilts back in the 1800s, early 20th century were utilitarian quilts. They were constructed for a purpose, to keep your family warm. Nowadays we make them either out of tokens of affection for our family or our loved ones. We want them to have a quilt to stay warm, maybe to hang on a wall, to decorate your table with a table runner. Baby quilts are always more traditional for grandmothers to make their grandbabies. Coming up on the top of a pass, and I'll tell you how high the altitude is where I am here. It's not the highest pass in Idaho, but it's still pretty high, and the roads are clear, so that's good. My temperature gauge says 16 degrees, and we are at 7,160 feet. I know I've commented on this before, but I think this quilt is very worthwhile to construct. It's very comparable to the Jane Sickle quilt, in my estimation, in my opinion, for whatever that is worth.